But until you get out of survival mode, you ain't got time to be worrying about right and wrong. You worrying about bottom line.
The hip-hop star's ultimately and violent death.
That he was gonna fucking change music for fucking ever, and it sucks, dude.
Whether it's Michael Jordan's game-winning shot, Peyton Manning's walk-off Super Bowl, or Kobe Bryant's electrifying 60-point game to end his career, everybody dreams of ending their legacy with a walk into the sunset. But that isn't guaranteed. Throughout a rapper's career, the fans and the performer grow a symbiotic relationship, each growing with each other. It's strange how we feel such a close relationship, such a close bond with these artists who we'll never know as we will our family or friends. We listen to their music for years, we watch them grow as people, we grow with them. When the curtain is pulled too soon and they're asked to go into that good night, we are left in a state of despair and mourning. We do not know these artists on a personal level, but we do have a relationship with them. A posthumous album grants a final hour for the artists and the fans to share. After cultivating a multi-year relationship with fans, a posthumous album allows the artist to say goodbye. The beauty of Mac Miller's posthumous album is its ability to bring closure to his career. Mac was working on a dual album that featured swimming and circles to represent his journey through addiction and depression. Mac Miller died just 1 month after the release of his album Swimming, which left producer Jon Brion with the important role of completing his vision and releasing Circles. Through angelic melodies that could rest on either album mixed with Mac's melancholy lyrics, Circles was a perfect example of what a posthumous album should be. His album Swimming had shown us that he realized how to swim rather than drown in his troubles, while Circles finds him in a state of acceptance and tranquility. Jon Brion had worked extensively with Mac Miller and had had numerous conversations to realize his dream. Preceding Mac's death, the two had put together most of the album. Brion has often stated that Mac didn't want to perform much of the instrumentals himself. He wanted Jon to do the instrumentals, but Jon often refused. What this does is creates a more intimate album. It feels like a Mac Miller album and not an album made by producers. It doesn't feel like a posthumous album. And what it does is allows Mac an ability to perform from the grave. Songs on Circles sound like they could be laced together with songs on Swimming. It really does feel like one complete project, and it brings closure to Mac's career. Much of the album was recorded before Mac's death. It's void of features, which are used commonly on posthumous albums to fill up space, which again makes it feel more personal and more intimate, and not like a posthumous album. Circles sits by itself in a luxury class of posthumous rap.
I basically had 8 or 9 where we had laid out everything with him, and they were near done. And then when the family asked me to do this, which I'm beyond honored by, but listening through stuff, I found a few songs that I hadn't even worked on that were song-based, like Oh my God, he had never even gotten around to playing me these yet.
Which ones?
I Can See.
She like the way that I dance. She like the way that I move. She like the way that I rock. She like the way that I woo. And she let it clap for a nigga. She let it clap for a nigga. And she throw it back for a nigga.
Similar to Mac Miller's album Circles, much of Pop Smoke's late work was finished before the rapper was killed. Producer Steven Victor has stated the album was 85% finished, and Pop Smoke's role model and friend 50 Cent stepped in to help complete the work. 50 decided not to take any money for his time working on the album because his goal was to preserve Pop's legacy rather than make a profit. Unlike Mac's album Circles, Pop Smoke's posthumous album Shoot for the Stars, Aim for the Moon sounds quite unlike his previous work, which does raise eyebrows at first glance, but it's important to understand the reasoning for this. In just 14 months, Pop Smoke had released 2 mixtapes and was a founding father of Brooklyn drill music, which is recognized by its ominous lyrics and aggressive beats. Pop Smoke rose to fame with his grisly voice that dominates any song he's on. But Pop had reached a point in his career where he wanted to show his range.
But that's what I'm wondering. Do you evolve into some of that at some point?
Says, I'm so steps ahead. You don't even know. I got like
You gonna R&B him out at some point?
I'm gonna play some shit for you. I got a love song coming out.
You do?
I'm gonna do. Pop Smoke is doing a love song.
Shoot for the Stars, Aim for the Moon is not the perfect posthumous project. There's several features that sometimes make the song disingenuous, and it does take away from Pop Smoke on certain songs. And at times, the album feels like a roller coaster ride through multiple genres without much fluidity. But what the album does do is show the world that Pop Smoke was more than a gangster rapper. It proves that he can excel with radio hits, love songs, dance hits, as well as trap music. Contrasting this to Circles, which was successful in preserving Mac Miller's legacy that he had built throughout his career, Shoot for the Stars explores the legacy that was ahead for Pop Smoke. The intention of the producers remains the key factor here. Neither Jon Brion on his work with Circles or 50 Cent with this album had their eyes on the paycheck. We cannot know for certain how these artists would feel hearing their work, but since the albums were heavily worked on while they were still alive, it's a safe assumption that they would want the world to experience this music they had spent their final days working on. It is my belief that both of these albums were made ethically. After the release of the album, however, 50 Cent took to Insta with a cryptic message distancing himself from Steven Victor and others involved on the album. It's unclear what happened behind the scenes, so unfortunately I cannot speak much on the ethics concerning that. But that being said, it's a blessing 50 Cent stepped in, because his impact left an album that was respectful towards the artist's legacy. I fear that without 50's involvement, we might have had an album resembling XXXTentacion's Bad Vibes Forever.
Now the fact that I'm alone is fucking comforting, and I can't seem to shake this fucking feeling in my... Shawty like the way a nigga dig it down. Heard a nigga come home with my drawers.
XXXTentacion built his cult following by creating an alternative rap cocktail of lo-fi hip-hop, screamo trap, and emo rock that was absolutely unique and set off a SoundCloud era of copycat rappers who were influenced by him. His sound can be heard mimicked in people like Denzel Curry, Trippie Redd, and Scarlord. What is strange when listening to Bad Vibes Forever is how it sounds like a pop album rather than his album. Features like Noah Cyrus, Rick Ross, and Tory Lanez do not belong, and distance the album from its lead artist who is barely featured on some songs. I understand why another artist who is a fan would want to contribute to the album to show their respects, but it hurts X's legacy when we have pop songs that don't mirror his style at all. We can act unethically without intending to, which seems to be what other artists involved have done. It is like the reporter in Absence of Malice acting unethically under the motivation to publish a story she deems important. Intentions can act as an excuse for the actions of these features, but they should still be scrutinized for offending X's memory. No producer stepped into the savior role that Jon Brion and 50 Cent did for their respective albums, which is why this sounds so distant from X's life work. Bad Vibes Forever is an introduction for most of the public to X's catalog, and is a pop album disguised under X's brand. It was made to satisfy a wider audience rather than honor the artist. Shoot for the Stars does a similar thing but gets away with tweaking Pop Smoke's sound because that was the next step in his journey. But Bad Vibes Forever is a shift away from X's trajectory. The producers responsible for putting this album together were unethical in changing his style because they are deliberately changing his vision in order to make a profit from a new audience who will not experience X for the influential and creative artist that he was during his life.
The concept, falsely accused, was used, and misled, bitch, I'm hoping you fucking rest in peace.
It's a sobering realization that we cannot control the legacy we leave behind. In these cases, the artist's grand finale are left in the hands of their producers. People like Jon Brion and 50 Cent worked meticulously in order to honor their friends, while others failed to conclude the performer's legacy, like in the case of XXXTentacion. It is not inherently unethical to act on behalf of the dead, but when we manipulate their life's work for our own financial gain, we are violating media ethics. Both Circles and Shoot for the Stars complemented the artist's vision and were created within the boundaries of media ethics, while Bad Boys Forever is haunted by the greed of immoral producers and family members. A lesson we can learn is to surround ourselves with people we trust to honor us when we are no longer here.
Dead people on earth after I die. What's the weather like? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I ain't perfect, but I try. Hey, I wonder if I'll maybe get a second life. This time I'ma get it right.